At a party in the evening, my girlfriend was considerate enough to peel shrimps for her white moonlight, who had just returned to China, right in front of me. I'm sorry, Brother Jonathan, don't be angry. Ellie has always been so considerate. I raised my eyebrows, turned around, and fixed her sister's hair in front of her. At the end, I also helped her sister wipe the corners of her mouth. Since you're so virtuous, I'll try to be a gentleman. Ellie was considerate enough to peel shrimps for Victor in front of me. Victor smiled and said thank you. Everyone else at the table silently observed my reaction. Before I could say anything, her white moonlight spoke first. I'm sorry, Brother Jonathan, don't be angry. Ellie has always been so considerate, right? But Ellie had never helped me peel shrimps. In the past, when I asked her if she could help, she would just frown and refuse without hesitation. There was even a hint of blame in her eyes. You know I don't like the taste of shrimps. That one sentence silenced me. But now, she, who was usually reserved and arrogant, was patiently helping Victor peel shrimps. Looking at his eyebrows and eyes that resembled mine, what else was there not to understand? Ellie frowned when she heard it. Jonathan, Victor doesn't know how to peel shrimps, so don't be unreasonable. Victor hooked his lips at me where Ellie couldn't see, as if proudly declaring his sovereignty. I raised my eyebrows and nodded slightly, as though I had genuinely considered it. Well, since you're so virtuous, I'll try to be a gentleman. As soon as I finished speaking, I turned around and got close to her sister Diana under everyone's gaze and reached out to help tidy up her hair. At the end, I gently wiped the corners of her mouth for her. How could you be so careless that it got on your mouth? Ellie's face turned cold instantly. Diana was slightly surprised at first, then, after realizing, her face turned red, cheeks flushed, fingers subconsciously twisting the corners of her clothes, and she stammered, thank you, thank you. Ellie watched the whole process, her hands that were peeling shrimps froze. Her tone was faintly angry as she read my name word by word, Jonathan. I turned around and looked at her innocently. What's wrong? Am I not gentleman enough? Her fists clenched so hard that they creaked, and her gaze turned colder. Ellie's tone was threatening. Jonathan, if you keep making trouble like this, we'll break up. The same trick again. I had been pursuing her for 3 years. I had been at her beck and call, putting myself in the most humble position. So, in the past, whenever we argued, as long as she mentioned breaking up, I would always rush to please her. She was certain I would compromise again. But this time, I didn't want to keep trying to please her. I sneered and spoke slowly, okay. Hearing this, an indescribable emotion rose in her eyes, anger, deep resentment, and disbelief. Before she finished speaking, Victor tugged carefully at the corner of Ellie's clothes. Stop quarreling. It's all my fault. Don't break up because of me, okay? His red eyes and pitiful expression met Ellie's reproachful and disappointed gaze. I lowered my eyes. It had been 3 years. This was the first time I saw her so gently and carefully coaxing someone, and that someone wasn't me. My heart subconsciously tightened, but it wasn't as painful as I'd imagined. I thought, whether filled with joy or grievances, this should come to an end. I got up and left, pausing at the door. I looked back with a last glimmer of hope, but unfortunately, Ellie leaned over and hugged Victor, comforting him in a soft voice. She didn't react to my departure. My heart stagnated, and the last glimmer of hope shattered ruthlessly. I turned and left. After returning, I quickly blocked and deleted all of Ellie's contact information. Why should I hang myself on a tree, especially a rotten one? What I didn't expect was that Diana actually took the initiative to send me a message. Diana, do you throw it away after use? She also sent a crying cute puppy emoji. I apologized to her, and she replied, Diana, it's okay. I'm happy to help you, but I have a basketball game this week. Can you come cheer me on? I saved a front seat just for you. Can you come? She attached an emoji of hopeful expectation. I thought for a while and agreed. I didn't know why, but since the first time we met, Diana had always given me a strangely familiar feeling. Yet no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't recall any memories related to her. Suddenly, the phone rang. It was an unfamiliar number. Hello. I picked up. You blocked me, Ellie's gritted teeth voice came through. A gloomy face emerged in my mind. Yes, what's wrong? Shouldn't you be the one blocking me, classmate? My tone was sarcastic. Can you stop being unreasonable? What else do you want me to do? I burst out laughing. If I remember correctly, classmate Ellie, we've broken up. Can't you be more sensible, like Victor? Her tone turned impatient, and I laughed from anger. Get out. After saying that, I immediately hung up and blocked her again, done in one go. When I arrived at University, the basketball game was about to start. As soon as I entered, I caused a sensation in the crowd. The sun shone on my face, coating my skin with a warm glow. That boy is so handsome, really. He has such a great figure. I envy him so much. But I didn't expect Ellie to be there. The girl next to her nudged Ellie with her elbow and raised her chin toward me. Wow, Ellie, your boyfriend. I'm so envious. He's so pretty. She didn't deny it and walked a few steps toward me. The first thing she asked was, why did you leave without saying a word that day? Victor blamed himself for so long because of that. I raised my eyes and answered indifferently, oh. She paused, her eyes fell on my clothes, and she frowned. I told you this kind of clothing doesn't suit you. I rolled my eyes at her and turned to look at Diana. Diana noticed my gaze and turned her head. Our eyes met. When she saw me, her eyes lit up instantly, and her face bloomed with a warm smile like a little sun, making it impossible to look away. Maybe smiles are contagious. Looking at her, I couldn't help but smile back. Ellie noticed something was wrong. She frowned and followed my line of sight. She saw Diana at a glance, and her face suddenly became extremely ugly. Are you here to find Diana? I asked back. You're so funny. Why aren't you looking for Diana? Could it be that she is here to see you? She didn't say anything. The game started. Anyone with a discerning eye could see that Ellie was always targeting Diana intentionally or unintentionally, but Diana performed with ease and was not affected at all. She bypassed a defensive player like lightning, raised the ball high with both hands, jumped up, and threw the ball into the basket accurately. Diana's team quickly gained the upper hand. As the whistle sounded, the game was finally over. The champion was undoubtedly Diana's team. I walked past Ellie excitedly and handed the water to Diana. Diana's smiling eyes looked straight at me, she bent down slightly, put her face in front of me, showing a row of white teeth, and asked me proudly, how am I? Am I good? Her eyes were bright, like a little puppy expecting to be praised. I couldn't help but reach out and touch her head. Great, super awesome. Amid the noise, I saw the tip of Diana's ear, the red color gradually spread to the base of her ears. I smiled and blurted out, you are so cute. Diana is the person who blushes most easily I have ever seen. Then she hesitated for a moment, but finally said, I like you. Can I pursue you? This direct confession caught me off guard. The breathing beside my ear became hotter and hotter, and her eyes were full of expectation and love that could not be hidden. Although I knew that Diana was Ellie's sister before, we were not very familiar with each other. However, I had the impression that every time I met Diana, she would act a little awkward. I didn't know why Diana suddenly liked me, but the love in her eyes did not seem false. Ellie stood aside and spoke at an inappropriate time, Jonathan, have you made enough trouble? Ellie stared at me with a dark face, holding Diana's hand, suppressing her anger. How long do you want to play this ridiculous drama? I turned around, only to see Ellie, full of coldness, and Victor, who looked smug behind her. Ellie gently hooked her finger at me. Come here. I can forgive you. If you want me to accompany you more, I can too. Stop making trouble. When the last word fell, there was a hint of command. Victor stood behind her with one hand on his waist. There was contempt in her eyes, like a wife looking at a concubine who is about to marry into the family. I glanced at Ellie. Her expression was very calm, without a trace of anxiety. She was right. She had always been confident of winning me over. Ellie, did I not make it clear enough? We have broken up, and I don't like you anymore. You can finally be with the person you like openly. Aren't you happy? I held Diana's hand beside me. Surprisingly, she didn't refute me. She examined me for a long time, trying to find a trace of lying on my face, but unfortunately there was none. After saying that, I subconsciously took Diana's hand and strode away. That. Suddenly, I heard Diana speak. I slightly tilted my head to look at her. As expected, her ears were red as if blood was about to drip. She pointed at the hand I was holding. I quickly let go and coughed twice, somewhat unnaturally. She spoke first, "That can I pursue you?" As soon as she finished speaking, I focused all my eyes on her. Seeing that I was staring at her, she felt a little embarrassed. "Why are you staring at me? Is there something on my face?" Diana's face was instantly covered with a blush. She raised her hand to wipe her face anxiously. I smiled and said, "Sure." She was stunned for a moment, but after she reacted, she almost jumped up and was as happy as a child. From then on, Diana brought me breakfast, snacks, and all kinds of food every day. The sisters around her couldn't stand it and said to her with regret, "No way, sister, how can you chase a boy like this? Others chase people by sending flowers in large quantities every day, but you don't even see a bit of pollen." She seemed to have opened the door to a new world. From then on, I received several bouquets of flowers every day. My roommate was shocked when he saw the pile of flowers in the dormitory. "Does she run a flower shop? She sends so many flowers every day." At 11 o'clock in the middle of the night, Diana sent me a message asking if I was free tomorrow. After hesitating for a while, I replied, "I am free tomorrow." She quickly replied, "Okay, go to bed early and don't stay up late. Good night." I was stunned. Diana would send me messages every night. When she was not with me during the day, I would always receive a lot of messages on WeChat. Whenever I was sick and uncomfortable, she was the first one to arrive. Last time, I forgot to eat breakfast. It caused stomach cramps, and the pain made me pale and covered in sweat. When she arrived, there was no smile on her face. This was the first time I saw her angry. On the way to the hospital, I was in so much pain that my consciousness was blurred, but I vaguely felt her holding my hand and muttering, "Why don't you take care of your body? It was like this before, and it is like this now." It was also from that time that she came to bring me breakfast every day, rain or shine, and would stare at me until I finished eating before leaving. My roommates teased me that I would be dominated by my wife in the future. This reminded me of my past self. I would send Ellie many messages every day, and her reply to me would always be just a I remember one time I had a fever and was really uncomfortable, so I called Ellie. This was her reply, "Jonathan, I'm very busy now, don't bother me anymore." After that, she hung up the phone without mercy. Later, I learned from others that what Ellie was busy with that day was picking up Victor, who had just got off the plane. I realized that it was never the parting that made me completely heartbroken. That day, she peeled shrimp for Victor in front of me. That was just the last straw that broke the camel's back. It's ridiculous. I had been pursuing Ellie for 3 years, and now we were breaking up after just 6 months together. That day, she was drunk and suddenly appeared in front of me. She grabbed my wrist and pulled me into her arms under the influence of alcohol. Her breath, with the smell of wine, sprayed on my neck, which made me itchy. She murmured like in a dream, very quietly, but I still heard it clearly. She kept calling Victor. I endured the sadness in my heart and reminded her out loud that I was Jonathan, not Victor. She looked up in a daze, stared at my face for a long time, and only said, "Let's be together." She didn't say that she liked me, nor did she make any promises. It didn't seem like a confession but more like an order. Although I was doubtful at the time, I was already overwhelmed by joy and didn't care about anything. Now looking back, it seems that everything can be explained. Someone sent a text message to my phone. It was from an unfamiliar number. Jonathan, I don't agree to break up. This is not something you can decide alone. Stop it. Victor returned to China alone, and he is still an orphan. He needs me. Can you be sensible? I felt physically uncomfortable after reading it. I couldn't believe that I had liked such a person for so many years. As expected, don't fall in love, otherwise, you will end up digging wild things. Even if there are thousands of words in your heart, they will eventually converge into 2 words, idiot. After sending it, there was silence on the other side for a moment, and then a message came in, you were not like this before. I rolled my eyes and decisively blocked this number. Early in the morning, I saw Diana standing downstairs with breakfast in her hand like a piece of wood. She didn't say a word and just stood quietly. It looked like she had been standing there for a while. I hurried downstairs. Diana saw a smile on my face, which quickly spread across her face. I took the breakfast and asked, why didn't you call me to come down? She raised her hand and scratched her head, a little embarrassed to say, I was afraid that you were not awake and calling would disturb you. I was a little amused. The sunlight shone through the thin clouds and fell on the face of the girl in front of me, reflecting a silver light that made people dizzy. Do you have any plans today? She asked me tentatively, a little cautiously. No. What about you? I received a message on my phone. I opened it and saw that it was sent by my roommate Brian. Are you stupid? When people ask you if you have any plans today, they just want to ask you out. Date, do you understand? In my mind, the image of Brian hating me and teaching me a lesson immediately emerged. I looked upstairs in confusion. I didn't know until I saw it, and I was shocked. Including Brian, the other 3 roommates were all crowded at the window, observing our situation with gossip. While I was still wondering how they heard us talking, I suddenly found that several of Diana's sisters were standing not far away, their faces full of gossip. Are roommates the same across the country? Before Diana could speak, I coughed lightly and my face turned slightly red. Diana, let's go on a date today. After Diana reacted, the smile on her face became even brighter. Okay. I thought about it inadvertently. I don't think I have ever had a formal date alone. When I was with Ellie before, she always had 1 or 2 godsisters around her. Later, the godsisters were gone, and the person in the middle became Victor. I had wanted to go to the amusement park with just the 2 of us for a long time, but I never made it. But this wish could be realized today. I took Diana to the amusement park. Screams came one after another from the roller coaster in front. I turned my head slightly and stared at Diana's profile. She looked back at me with her innocent eyes. A mischievous thought popped up in my heart. Diana, do you want to try something exciting? Without waiting for her answer, I took her hand and went to ride the roller coaster. Maybe it was because she often blushed and was shy that I thought she was timid, but after playing a few times, she was fine, not even screaming or scared. Instead, I almost lost my soul. She supported me and held back her laughter. Next time I come to the amusement park, I must not ride the roller coaster with Diana, I thought secretly. We almost played all the rides in the amusement park. The smile seemed to be sewn on my face. I haven't had so much fun and enjoyment in a long time. This made me feel unprecedented happiness and freedom. She was like a happy fruit, making people happy. At noon, we randomly found a restaurant with more good reviews on the internet. The waiter handed us the menu. After Diana finished ordering the dishes, I was a little surprised. She ordered all the dishes I liked. I felt a little warm in my heart to be valued and held in the palm of someone's hand. What happened to you recently? A familiar voice came from the next table. It was Victor for sure. As for the Ellie he mentioned, you don't have to think about it to know who it is. It's true that enemies meet on a narrow road. I didn't look back and pretended not to see them. Victor caught a glimpse of me from the corner of his eye and walked over with a look of surprise. Jonathan, why are you here too? Ellie followed Victor and walked over with a cold face. I felt myself being locked in a burning gaze. I asked back, "Why can't I be here? You booked this restaurant." He felt a little aggrieved. "But this is a couple's restaurant." He glanced at Diana with a hint of meaning. I didn't notice it when I came in, but now I saw that the restaurant was full of pink balloons and a couple's message wall. Couples of lovers, it's really a couple's restaurant. I smiled and hugged Diana. "I came here with my girlfriend." "What? Do you have any objection?" Diana's ears turned red. I felt that the coldness around Ellie was even worse. Victor muttered a few words in dissatisfaction. Didn't Jonathan just break up with Ellie not long ago? He found a new love so quickly. I really envy Jonathan. I caught a glimpse of the bracelet on Victor's wrist from the corner of my eye and recognized it at a glance. It was the birthday gift I gave to Ellie last year. At that time, in order to buy that bracelet, I lived frugally and worked several jobs a day. I was exhausted every day and lost several pounds. When she received the bracelet, her eyes were a little complicated, but her tone was light. "It's not necessary. Don't buy it next time. I worked so hard and ended up making wedding dresses for others. Even if I don't like it, I feel a little uncomfortable." I looked away calmly and ignored the two of them. The waiter saw that something was wrong and hurried forward. "Our store has a recent event. As long as couples kiss, they can get a small gift for free." Hearing this, Victor took Ellie's arm. "I want that small gift." Ellie frowned and shook her head. She looked up and saw that I had an expression of watching a show. She clenched her fists and suddenly kissed Victor on the lips. Finally, Ellie looked up to observe my reaction. I hugged Diana's arm and teased, pretending to be disgusted by them and vomiting. Ellie's face instantly became very ugly. I definitely couldn't eat this meal. I took Diana's arm and walked out of the restaurant. As soon as I walked out of the restaurant door, I heard the sound of angry bowls being smashed inside. I slightly turned sideways and saw Ellie clenching her fist and smashing it against the wall. After eating at another restaurant, I met Ellie and Victor again in the garage. I saw the wound on Ellie's hand at a glance. It's a small world, we met so many times in one day. I sighed. Just as I was about to get in the car, Victor suddenly rushed up and blocked me. "Jonathan, do you think this keychain is nice?" I caught a smug smile in his eyes, raised my eyebrows and replied, "Ugly as you." Diana couldn't help but chuckle. He didn't expect me to be so direct. He froze in place. To be honest, that keychain was really ugly, so ugly you couldn't bear to look at it. Victor reacted, and his eyes began to redden again. Although Ellie was still leaning over to comfort him, her face was obviously more impatient. Just as I was about to turn around and leave with Diana, Ellie suddenly grabbed my hand. The strength of her grip made me frown in pain. The incident happened in an instant. Diana punched Ellie in the face. Ellie didn't expect that she would really fight in public, so she took the punch head-on. But she reacted quickly and fought back. It didn't take long before both of them were bruised. I blocked Diana behind me and pushed Ellie hard. She probably didn't expect me to push her. She staggered, her face full of disbelief and anger. "You pushed me for her." I opened my arms and stood in front of Diana. It felt like a hen protecting her chick. "Why can't I push you because of Diana? You can protect Victor, so why can't I protect Diana? Ellie, I know you like Victor, so I'll help you. But why can't you let me go? I'm not shameless. I can't follow you around like a bootlicker all my life." Hearing this, Ellie's figure swayed, her eyes looked complicated, and she raised her hand to grab me again. I dodged and pulled Diana away. At dusk, the two of us walked slowly along the street. The street lights cast a dim light, stretching our shadows very long. Diana asked me a lot about the grievances I had suffered from Ellie in the past. I told her the truth. I no longer cared about the past. I felt that the people around me were in a bad mood. Just as I was about to turn around and ask, Diana suddenly hugged me from behind. I was a little confused but didn't struggle, because Diana buried her head in my collarbone. After a while, it felt a little wet. Diana cried. Diana hugged me tightly, buried her head deeply, and made a muffled sound. Tell me, why did you make yourself so miserable before? Do you know how distressed I am? There was a hint of crying and anger in her voice. When I heard Diana's voice, I felt my heart melt. I raised my hand and touched her head. To be honest, it would be a lie to say I wasn't panicked. After a while, Diana raised her head, her eyes red and slightly wet. She said a lot and cried several times. She choked up when she talked about the injustices I had suffered before. I knew it wasn't appropriate to laugh at this time, but she started crying as she spoke, and I couldn't help but laugh while hugging her. Many thoughts suddenly popped into my mind. How could she be so cute? How could she cry more than me? Finally, she stopped crying and took my hand for a walk. I expressed my doubts. Why did you suddenly like me? She didn't answer but said she would tell me later. That day, Diana took me out mysteriously. When I asked her where we were going, she just smiled and didn't say anything. When we arrived at the destination, I recognized it at a glance. This was the orphanage where I stayed when I was a child. In fact, I was also an orphan. I vaguely remember that on my 3rd birthday, my parents drove me out to play and we had a car accident on the way. When the accident happened, my mother held me tightly in her arms and protected me. In the end, my parents died. From then on, I moved to the countryside with my grandmother. But a few years later, my grandmother passed away. The old people in the village said it was because I was unlucky at jinx. I didn't have any relatives, so I was sent to the orphanage. My thoughts returned to the present. This place looked like it had been abandoned for a long time. Even the door was dilapidated. It opened with a slight push. Diana took my hand and asked me carefully if I remembered this place. Of course, I did. I just didn't understand why she brought me here and how she knew this place. Diana, do you still remember the little fat kid who followed you here when you were a kid? I suddenly remembered that when I first came here, there was a little fat kid who was always bullied by others. They would snatch her things and throw her clothes into the water. I had a chivalrous spirit since I was a child, so I couldn't stand it. Every time, I helped her fight off the bullies and asked her to call me boss, promising to protect her in the future. I still remembered her eyes back then, sparkling like stars. But then a few years passed, and she was taken away. I was also adopted a few months later. The shadow of that person from the past overlapped with Diana. Their features were so similar. I was a little shocked. No wonder I felt a sense of familiarity when I saw Diana. If I hadn't seen it myself, I would never have associated that white, fat, and cute child with the 1.7-meter tall woman in front of me. Diana took me to a wall. There were a few childish words engraved on the yellowed surface, which instantly brought back many memories. It read, "In the future, I must take my little brother to conquer the world." I could tell it was written by me. Below it was another line, "Later, I must conquer the world with the boss." I smiled. Diana and I are officially together. After returning to school, Diana confessed to me in public and I agreed. Someone recorded it. Diana is also a campus celebrity. With the help of her friends, the video spread across the campus. The comments were all positive, praising the handsome man and beautiful woman or sending blessings. As I scrolled through the comments, one stood out to me. It was ridiculous. The avatar was an Alaskan dog. I blocked her and left a confusing comment. Then the phone rang. It was one of Diana's friends. She told me Diana got injured while playing basketball and was bleeding a lot. When I heard this, I stood up and rushed to the school basketball court. After I got out of the dormitory, there was a person standing not far away who surprised me. Ellie grabbed my wrist tightly and asked in a temperamental tone, "Are you and Diana together?" I shook her hand away. My wrist turned red and it hurt. I looked at her coldly. "So what? Does it have anything to do with you, classmate?" She looked unhappy. "Is it necessary to piss me off?" I raised my eyebrows. Until now, she still thinks that I am taking revenge on her. It's ridiculous. Are you still angry about the day I peeled shrimp for Victor? I won't help him peel shrimp anymore. Don't, I interrupted her coldly. Diana is still injured and waiting for me. I don't have time to waste with her. Stop, stop, stop. Classmate, I'm very busy. I don't care about what you said anymore. Please don't come to me again. After saying that, I turned around and rushed to the basketball court without caring about Ellie's instantly pale face. As soon as I arrived at the basketball court, I saw Diana surrounded by a group of people. They looked indifferent and expressionless, as if the person who was injured and bleeding was not her. I walked over. Diana spotted me in the crowd at a glance. She had a cold face just now, but when she saw me, she immediately felt aggrieved. She hugged me and her eyes began to moisten, the corners of her eyes turned red. She felt very aggrieved. It hurt so much. I raised my hand and touched her head. I looked down at her injury. There was a big cut on her calf, the flesh was turned inside out, and the blood was flowing continuously. The moment I saw the wound, my heart seemed to be tugged at. I felt so distressed. Let's go to the hospital first. I gently helped her up. As soon as I turned around, I saw Ellie standing not far from me, behind me. She was full of anger and disbelief. I ignored her and took Diana to the hospital. While the doctor was bandaging Diana's wound, a strange text message came. The busy you said means to find Diana, right? It was Ellie, at a glance. I replied, it's none of your business, and then blocked her. Diana's wound was bandaged. I touched her head. How did she get herself like this? I just saw her injured calf being wrapped with bandages again and again, with a look of heartache. On the contrary, after she bandaged it herself, she kept staring at my face and grinning. I sighed, feeling helpless. What should I do if my girlfriend looks so stupid? After sending Diana back to school, Victor sent me a message. The last sentence was to ask me to meet at the cafe tomorrow. I didn't have to guess what he was going to do. I saw Victor as soon as I entered the cafe. The fragility on his face in front of Ellie before was swept away. Instead, he had a bit more arrogance, looking like two completely different people. He put the bracelet in the most conspicuous place. When he saw me sit down, he immediately started to mock me. You should recognize this bracelet. It looks familiar, right? I just mentioned it to Ellie, and she gave it to me the next day. You really like to pick up things that others don't want. I leaned back on the sofa and replied with a smile. In an instant, his arrogant face became distorted in front of my eyes. Victor's hands were shaking with anger. He stood up and splashed the coffee on the table on my face. Jonathan, why don't you just die? You're still seducing Ellie all day long even though we broke up. I tell you, Ellie only likes me. Victor stared at me viciously. I wiped the coffee off my face, stood up quickly, grabbed Victor's hair, put his head on the table, and slapped Victor hard. Victor's face swelled up all of a sudden. Ah, I'm going to kill you. Ah. Victor screamed like a pig being slaughtered. He struggled left and right to try to get rid of my hand. Bang, I slapped him again. This is it. Symmetrical. Victor's pig-killing screams became louder, and the waiters were attracted by him. Seeing this, I poured the other cup of coffee on the table on his face, grabbed his hair and threw him to the ground. While Victor was still on the ground and going crazy, I left this place of trouble. After returning, Victor sent me text messages crazily. There were insults and ridicule, and every sentence was rude. I raised an eyebrow. This was more than a little different from his usual delicate and weak appearance in front of Ellie. I wonder how Ellie would react when she saw that her usually delicate and kind white moonlight was actually like this. Ever since Ellie knew that Diana and I were together, she changed her number every day to send me text messages. She stood downstairs of the dormitory and refused to leave. It was really annoying to be harassed by these two people every day. After thinking for a while, I went to the coffee shop to get the surveillance video of Victor and me, and all the text messages from Victor that insulted me were sent to Ellie. Then I sent a record of Ellie's daily harassment of me to Victor and wrote, "Take care of your kappa, I don't like it." From then on, Ellie harassed me less frequently, and Victor rarely sent me insulting text messages. As expected, it was because the two of them had a falling out. Every day, they were either arguing or on the way to an argument. They didn't have that much energy to harass me. Without the harassment from these two, I felt a lot better. Every day, I teased Diana and never got tired of it. It's already autumn, and the wind in the evening is a little chilly. It's getting late, so I pulled my clothes and walked towards the dormitory. Halfway there, a dark shadow suddenly appeared beside me, and I was startled. "Jonathan, it's me." Ellie grabbed my hand, and the smell of alcohol poured in with her breath. I felt a little nauseous. "Jonathan, I have completely broken up with Victor." I was pulled hard and staggered and almost fell on her. I held back my nausea and shook her hand away. "What does it have to do with me?" She clenched her fist nervously, and her tone was a little humble. "Jonathan, I was wrong, I will never do that again. Can you give me another chance?" I looked straight into her eyes without any hesitation. "No, don't bother me again in the future. It's really annoying." Hearing the last two words, Ellie's face turned very pale. She stammered and wanted to say something. I interrupted her. "In fact, you and Victor are really a good match. If possible, you should get back together and get married as soon as possible to prevent both of you from entering the market and harming other people." Ellie's eyes were frighteningly red. I turned around and wanted to leave. She stretched out her hand to stop me but was suddenly kicked and staggered, she almost fell to the ground. It was Diana. Seeing Diana, I no longer pretended to be calm. I ran over and hugged her tightly. I turned and looked at Ellie without any mercy. "This is my last warning, don't come to me again in the future, otherwise I will call the police. Stalking and text message harassment are really annoying. Now you pretend to be affectionate. Where did you go before?" Ellie was stunned for a long time and finally left with a lonely background. Since then, I haven't seen her again in college. The text message harassment also stopped. I rarely heard any news about Ellie and Victor. The last time I thought of them was when I heard other people's gossip at a class reunion a few years later. I heard that after Victor and Ellie had a complete breakup, he hooked up with another rich man. But the new rich man had a family, and within a few years, his original wife beat him up in the street and cut off his hair. Although the rich man did divorce in the end, and Victor succeeded, the two were not happy after marriage. Her husband cheated again not long after they got married, and Ellie's family went bankrupt not long after that. She dropped out of school, became an alcoholic, and became a vagrant. Now it's even a problem whether she can have enough food. I just raised my eyebrows after listening to this, without much thought. Suddenly, Brian patted my shoulder, smiled, and raised his chin towards the door. "Your wife is here to pick you up. It's okay if you went out to play before, but why do you have to go home so early even for a class reunion?" I smiled. There was nothing I could do. Who told me to be a henpecked husband? It was snowing outside. As soon as I arrived at the door, Diana trotted over and put another coat on me. She smiled and scratched my red nose from the cold and walked with my hand, "Going home." The full text is over.